Hello, hello. Happy day to you. Okay, it's been a bit again. I guess that's just how it goes for me in this current season that we are in. Um, if you're new in this space, welcome. My name is Meg. We are out here at Haven Hill restoring our homestead and our land, gardening, homeschooling the majority of our kids. Our oldest has graduated. We have 8 children. Our oldest has graduated, and our next 2 are boys. They're both in high school. One is a senior and one is a freshman, and they are at a private school, and then everybody else is homeschooled. I'm giving you this background because my last video I did with my oldest son, and you can go and you can scroll and you are welcome to go view that and see that if you haven't. But that was how the video for that one was how we did his education. He's getting ready to graduate in just a couple of months, and he has experienced all forms of education. He experienced homeschooling, public school, and private school, and we just walked through, or he came and he was willing to walk through with me the pros and the cons to both, the benefits to both, what was hard in each one, and it was such a great video for even me to hear. And I got a ton of comments and a ton of questions from that. The comment section's great. Feel free and read it. You might be encouraged. You might be able to encourage somebody else as well. And then I got lots of messages as well. So that was super fun. The one question I got asked quite a bit after that video was, do you have a specific book list that you would recommend, particularly for junior hires? And so that is what I'm doing today. I thought I would just do a shorter video where I can show you, I asked the majority of my kids what were some of their favorite books in that junior high stage. Some of my kids are obviously still in that stage. And if they would be willing to get those titles to me, tell me what they are, and then I can share them with you. Reading is a huge part of our education before my kids, well, throughout all of their education, but particularly before they get into high school, I hardly touch textbooks very intentionally until they get to high school age, because for things like history, I want them to read as many historical fiction, novels, anything, even if it's true stories. Like we do a lot with missionary stories. I want them to read as many stories as they possibly can. So they're enthralled by it. And so history just comes alive to them. So then when they do get to more of the textbook stage, they know a lot of history pinpoints. They may not necessarily know all of the order it goes into or different details, but they just love it. And that has actually served a lot of my kids very well. Most of my kids are either, they're not all this way, but most of my kids so far that can read are avid readers, and they all love history. I have a couple that became avid readers more later. And then, and one other thing really quick before I go into this, we have experienced in our family, so out of 8 of our children, our youngest is 3. Obviously he cannot read yet. So the other 7, we've experienced all different types of readers, from those that read early and very, very well with very little help, to those that actually had to have outside help. One of our daughters we were told that she was going to need help for probably about 2 weeks just to kind of get over some things, and that ended up being 2 years, almost 2 school years of receiving outside help, and that was very, very beneficial. I have another daughter who has struggled, and we haven't had to have outside help, but I've taken the things that my other daughter learned and I have used those to help her. So all that to say, we've experienced just the gamut, all of the different reading spectrum that you could possibly have. So these are some of the favorites. Some of them are series. If they're a series, I will try to mention it to you. And I will also have all of these linked in an Amazon storefront, but you can go to your library as well. So, all right, here we go. Okay. The Secret of the Shark Pit. My boys really enjoyed this. I don't remember if any of my girls read this one. It's a super fun story. This was recommended to us from one of my friends, and her husband read it when he was a kid and loved it. So this is junior high level, remember. And actually, before I say that, I don't actually pay much attention to reading levels. If I think my child can read it, I'm good with that. If it's a really good story, I think any age should be, even if it's a children's book. Sometimes I would give my kids books very much under their reading level just because I wanted to love the story. So don't be worried if your kid is not at this level or if they're way past this level. If a book is worth reading at any point in life, then it's great. It's worthy of your time. So, okay, the great illustrated classics. So, particularly for my kids that struggled with reading, this was a great introduction to some of the classics with the hopes of that then they would want to read the actual classics. And this worked for my girls. So there's tons and tons of these. These are old books. Are you going to come talk with me? This is Deacon. He's our youngest. These are old books. You can find them. Okay, they're classics. This worked with my girls. Actually, well, yeah, there's all different types of classics that you can buy like this. I understand there are differing views on this. Some people would say, oh, this was going to ruin the classic. That was not my experience in any way, shape, or form. It was a fantastic introduction. So I am a huge fan of these. Like I said, it's just meant to introduce them to the story. It's not going to have all the details. I like that, especially if you have a reader that's struggling. The words are a little bit bigger. So I'm a fan of those. We didn't go through all of them, but just a few of them. The Bobbsey Twins. These are old books as well. You can find them in the libraries. You can find them online. You can even find them at antique stores or vintage places, thrift stores, whatever. I read these and some of my kids have really enjoyed these. Encyclopedia Brown. A lot of my kids loved these books, boys and girls alike. So these are super fun. They're little mysteries and they're enjoyable to read. And one of my sons in particular devoured this book, but you can get these for all different types of people. This one is on Davy Crockett. And I also wanted to share with you, oh, did I not bring it? Oh, no, I did. Hold on. Let's get down here. Okay. These are wonderful for history when you're getting to know a specific person and time frame. So this one is a great one. We also really like the Who Was books. Now these will be probably, the Who Was books might be easy for some junior hires, but some they won't. Either way, I loved this is the Childhood of Famous Americans series, and then these are the Who Was. I highly recommend both. And what these types of books did, similar to the classics, is it introduced my kids to characters that then, if they had one that stuck out, they delved deeper into it later. Average Boy. This is a faith-based book, and my son Riggins loves these books. These are fun to read. Yeah, they're great. Good storylines too. Trixie Belden. My mom actually got our oldest daughter hooked on these. I read Nancy Drew, and Nancy Drew. Oh yeah, no, I do have them. I read Nancy Drew. My mom read these. My girls have read both of them. I highly recommend them. Both are mystery type books and very well written. So both of my girls have read these, which leads me to say that then my boys have read the Hardy Boys series. My son Cooper loved these books. I would have to ask my son Kobe. I don't remember. I mean, he's getting ready to graduate, so it's a little bit harder for me to remember all the things that he read. The love of reading came much later for him anyway. So I highly recommend those. Good books, very well written. Here's another, the Trailblazers. These are faith-based books as well, but they take people or time frames and they tell their story. So this one is on Corrie ten Boom. It's a fantastic book, very well written, and there's lots of different ones like this that you can pick from. All of my kids so far, let's see, Addison, Kobe, Cooper, Willow, Reagan. So 5 of my kids have read this book. They all loved it. I read this book with them. At the same time that they did. Okay, The Tale of Despero. This is a fantastic book. It's written in a way where the pages are a little bit shorter. This is helpful. It's kind of like that mind thing with my kids. So this is a very, very good book, but it it makes you feel like you're, like if you have a struggling reader, it makes you feel like you're reading a longer book, but the pages are very easy to just look at and be like, oh, okay, I can read that. That works. The Narnia series. I mean, this is like a staple in our family. I'm sure most of you have heard of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. They are classics. Fantastic books. I started out by making my kids read the books and then they could watch the movies, and then that didn't cross over to my younger ones because some of them saw the movies when they did. But they all love the books, and they are probably divided. Some like the books more than the movie, and some like the movies more than the books. But these are absolutely wonderful, wonderful books. Very well written, good language in them as far as word choices and just different things. So I'm a literature nut, though. I like stuff like that. Any of the Little House series, sometimes we read these together, sometimes we read them, or they read them on their own. Little House series goes without saying. This is such a great historical book as well, but also pleasure. It's fantastic. Okay, I'm going to, well, let's see. My Side of the Mountain, my boys, I don't think my oldest daughter read this, but Willow did. Very, very good book by Jean Craighead George. More books written by this author. You can find them, and they have read more. But this is a series. I don't remember all of the titles right off the top of my head, and I don't want this to be a horribly long book. Oh, it actually says in here, any of the Puffin Modern Classics are great books. I would 100% agree with that. Let's see here. It says, no, it doesn't. So anyway, if you look up My Side of the Mountain, you can see all the other ones. Like there's Frightful's Mountain, I think, or something like that. Penderwicks. Oh, classic. So good. Really, really good. This is also a series. We have not done all of the series. You can listen to this one out loud. It's very good. Some of these my kids chose to listen to versus reading, and that's fine. That's fine with me as well. Great book. Charlotte's Web. We read this together. Some of my kids have read it on their own. Another classic, really, really good story. All of my kids were enthralled with Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. It's a fantastic book. Some of my girls really got into the American Girl classics. Again, this is like a historical fiction book. I like these a lot. So do they. Ramona. I meant to grab Ramona and Beezus, but I just grabbed, or Ramona the Pest. Any of the Ramona books. If your kids like fun books, it's an easier, not quite as big of words as well. These are really, really funny books, and I even think boys would like them as well. I don't think any of my boys read these. It was more of my girls thing, but yeah, those are great books. And then any of the boxcar, I meant to grab the first one, I grabbed the second one. Any of the boxcar books, and this is one that we have listened to. The audiobooks you can find are really, really good. So that has been fun. We've done it both ways. There's tons of these. Obviously, we have not read all of them, but we have read a handful, and it always gets my kids inspired to, especially my younger ones, to be outside and explore and make forts and all of those things. I loved Boxcar Children growing up as well. So that was a good book. And then the other two that I'm going to mention, you would have to use discretion as a parent, whether you would introduce these in junior high or not. I did. I'm glad I did, but I do think that there are some different elements to them that might require discussion. Okay, so with that said, I hope you had a paper and pencil. I should have told you that in the very beginning. First one, Harry Potter. Goes without saying. If you are in certain circles, this book might be one of those books that some people would say, oh, your child shouldn't read that. I made the decision that I wanted my kids to read this. I at first wasn't sure about it because I didn't grow up reading this book. In fact, I don't even remember when this was written. This one is very well loved. This book was not written when I was older. I did my own research, and I'm like, well, it sounds really fantastic. I know I've heard that it was so well written. It is very, very well written. But however you feel about, some of the content in there. My girls in particular devoured it, and my daughter's goal is to collect some of the most beautiful copies that she can find. So I recommend it. You can have differing opinions. That's okay. And then this one, 100 Cupboards. by N.D. Wilson. He has lots of different books. I highly recommend all of them. Now, so 100 Covers is spooky. Not crazy spooky, not in like, a way that some might consider evil or bad. This book is not a faith-based book, though he is a believer. And my girls loved it. Actually, so did my son Cooper. And again, I don't remember always what all of my kids read. So it is a fantastic book. He's a wonderful author. He writes very, very well. And yeah, so I highly recommend this one. If you have children that are ultra sensitive to things, maybe just wait a little bit. But there's not bad elements in it. I just want you to know that there are just some parts in it that are, I don't even want to say spooky, not really scary. Maybe you would use those words. I can't think of the right adjectives at this moment. So anyway, there you go. I am sure I could come up with so many more books as well, but this is a good start. Start with 1 or 2 or 10, it doesn't matter. I think it's just really important to know your kids and their interests. Well, hello, Peppy. And so I've done this in the past and I started it this year. Sometimes I will give my kids a book challenge. So in the next 2.5 months, I challenged my daughter who's 13, my son who is 11, and my daughter who is 9. I gave them each a certain amount of books. It was right around 10 or so. And I said, if you can read these books before the end of the year, so it's about 2.5 months, I will have a reward for you. And I don't know exactly what the reward's going to be yet. Some of them might choose money so they can pick something else out. But I want the reward. Like that's an audacious goal. And I want them to be challenged by it. And so far they've started reading more. They're filling their spare time with more books. And I love that. So for me, that is absolutely worth giving a reward for because they're getting their school done. They're working towards something. It's kind of a competition between them in a really great way. So that is something that I have done to get my kids to read, but to read a lot of books. One year, my son Cooper, when he was in 8th grade, so his books were long, he got through, 20 some books. Again, they were harder than a lot of these books, but in a year, or maybe it was even 30, I don't remember, but he did such a good job and it really formed him and his love of reading. And to this day, he loves reading. So I am sure there are so many more books, like I said, that I could recommend. And I will probably have extras in the Amazon area. Feel free to purchase them there, but you can also just write them down. And yeah, I hope that's encouraging. So again, reading is really important. It's really important to me. And I want my kids to be voracious readers. Like I said, they by far read more than I do. I am in a season with just things that we have going on here that I'm often listening to books, and that's great. I always prefer to have a book in my hand, but I do like that I can listen to books and be in the garden, or listen to books while I'm doing laundry, or whatever it might be. So this is just to give you some ideas. Again, feel free to leave some of your books in the comments. I know people read them and they can encourage me. You can encourage each other. And yeah, so all right, have a good one.